Pokemon Go, and those who have heeded it and those who have not. And those who have not live in blissful ignorance of the new game that is sweeping the world. Well, U.S., New Zealand, and Australia so far. So far. I've talked to people from a variety of places. In New Zealand, they're going crazy over it. In college campuses all over the U.S., roving bands of Pokemon Go players. So what is it? It's an app for iPhone and Android. Came out on Wednesday. It comes from the Pokemon Company and a company called Niantic. Niantic's an interesting story. They were originally a company called Keyhole, or at least many of the engineers were from a company called Keyhole, which was a mapping company, used satellite images to do mapping. Google bought them some years ago and incorporated the Keyhole data into their Google Maps. That's the satellite imagery in Google Maps. And then some of the engineers from Keyhole working at Google said, hey, we got some ideas. Can we do a little game thing inside of Google? And Google said yes. They called it Niantic. Niantic Labs. And Niantic did two games while they were at Google. One was not really a game. It was called Field Trip. Field Trip was interesting because it was kind of like having a guide in your pocket on your Android device. You put on your headphones, and as you walked around town, when you got near a point of interest, it would say, oh, and on your left is the old Petaluma Opera House, built in 1803, and it was an opera until 1922 when it was turned into the Petaluma Hotel or whatever. It was if you're in a city, it was kind of like having a tour guide with you. It was an interesting idea. Is it still around? I think it is, but I think it's kind of changed a little bit. Then they did a game called Ingress that it touched a nerve with a certain group of people. I have some friends who played Ingress kind of obsessively. And the idea of Ingress was you would walk around your town and you would join a faction. I think there were 2 factions, and you would join a faction, and you'd walk around a town and try to claim landmarks by hacking them for your faction. It was a little weird, hard, a little opaque, but people who got it couldn't stop playing. And I have one friend, a priest, who walked many, many miles playing Ingress. Father Robert played it like crazy. Lost weight, got in shape playing Ingress. I don't know is Ingress still around? Yeah. Then Google spun Niantic Labs off. That was it. Okay, bye-bye. Have fun. You guys are doing great work, but see you later. And we didn't hear anything from them for a few months. And then there were rumors a couple of months ago that they were working with a Pokemon company to do something based. Remember Pokemon? If you had kids in the 90s, early 2000s, you know what Pokemon was. It was a game, obsessive card game. My son was into it when he was about 6 or 7 or 8, something like that. We had to stop a lot at 7-Eleven and buy decks of Pokemon cards, and he collected them, and they'd play an elaborate card game where you had these little cute, it was Japanese, little cute fuzzy creatures. They were called Pokemons, and there were hundreds of them, and they had different attributes. Pikachu was the most famous. He was electric, so he had an electric attack. And they would, you play the card game, you'd pit Pikachu against Pidgey or whatever, and they'd battle, and it was complicated, but Henry liked it. It was fun. And I think it's still around, but I don't think it is. It was a huge fad, and probably about 2005, thereabouts. So the Pokemon company's still around. They're still making the card games. They've got Pokemon games. There's all sorts of stuff. They've teamed up with Niantic for a game called Pokemon Go, in which you walk around your town, and there's a augmented reality on your phone, so you can see where you're walking. By the way, they warn you, do not pay attention while you're playing this game, and now I understand why. Because it'd be easy to wander into the street without realizing it, trying to catch one of these Pokemon. As you walk around, you see Pokemon, you throw your Pokeball at them, you catch them in the Pokeball. It's kind of like a Ghostbusters thing. You go, and then become part of your collection. And then there are points of interest. Because these points of interest are all over, and you can visit them and collect more things. And then there are gyms where you can go and you can fight other Pokemon players. And if you conquer the gym, it becomes a part of your team. The 3 teams, red, blue, and yellow. Anyway, college kids are playing these like crazy. And I was wandering around last night in our small town, 55,000 people, Petaluma, California. I ran into a dozen different people playing the game. And you can kind of tell because they're staring at the phone and occasionally swiping up with their finger and looking around, sometimes in groups and gaggles of people. And they go, Pokemon Go? I said, Pokemon Go. And you start talking to them. I met up with a bunch of guys, 3 guys. They said, yeah, there's 2 girls over there. They're playing, but we're all going down to the bakery because there's a guy. We met a guy. He's setting off a lure at 3:30 this afternoon. And if everybody goes down there, there are going to be lots of Pokemon you can catch because the lure works for half an hour and attracts Pokemon. And so they were all going down there. It was going to be like an impromptu Pokemon party at the Bovine Bakery. And I thought, what is going on? And I realized, this came at a kind of opportune moment. It's been a grim week, hasn't it? It's been a very sad week. In the news, it's just, the news has been horrible for a long time now. Another sad week. I think people were kind of down. And along came this game, and it's more than a game that you sit in your living room in your undies and play. It's a game that you have to go outside and walk around. I walked 5 miles yesterday playing this game. So it's, you get fresh air exercise and you meet people, and you know what? You're all playing the game, and you kind of have there's this kind of social element to it that's kind of amazing. It was amazing. I've talked to friends who say on the college campuses, Harvard campus, last night, early evening, hundreds of groups of people wandering around, all playing Pokemon Go. In Wyoming, Riverton, Wyoming, Shayla Wiggins he's a 19-year-old, was playing Pokemon Go. She went to the river to find a Pokemon because there's Pokemon by the water, different Pokemon by the water. She discovered a body that had been there less than 24 hours. She jumped over the fence to go towards the river. I was walking towards the bridge along the shore when I saw something in the water. I had to take a second look, she says. I realized it was a body floating 3 feet from the shore. Called the police. It was pretty shocking. I didn't know what to do at first, but I called 911 right away. Don't know exactly what it was, but what? It's only a matter of time before you hear about somebody getting run over playing it. So please, if you do play this game, and it's free, by the way, on Android and iPhone, pay attention. Look up once in a while. See, what you do, though, you walk around. Somebody's going to make a lot of money making a special neck holster, neck stand that you could put your phone on, and then you could be looking while you're walking around, looking at it. You don't have to hold it. Maybe have some rear view mirrors on it so you don't get run over.